And I think Snow White has become the pinnacle of this. This is going to go down in history as an asterisk next to Rachel Zegler's name. Rachel Zegler.
Babe, she's crying. Like, full meltdown mode.
I don't really care about that. What I care about is how she hated the story because it needed to be wokeified, and she hated the fact that there was going to be a Prince Charming of some sort, and they needed to update it.
Rachel Zegler is reportedly absolutely losing it right now after Family Guy came in like the internet's animated hit squad and dragged her Snow White persona straight into cartoon hell. And listen.
And then what do you know? They try all this updating. They get this lousy screenwriter, in my estimation, because I saw this thing and it was awful. Like really, really, really bad.
They didn't just make a joke. They didn't lightly parody. No, they scorched her. And what's worse, they didn't even pretend to care. They saw the disaster of the Disney reboot, they saw Rachel's viral red carpet rants, her no prince needed feminism TikToks, and her this story's outdated press tour, and they turned it into a full-on mockery montage. Babe, they treated her like a meme, and the world is treating it like justice.
When people say woke, what they really mean is they're describing a worldview that hates you, that hates everything America stands for.
Family Guy basically said, oh, the internet's dragging her? Bet. Let's animate that. And what they created was a savage, sarcastic, painfully accurate version of Rachel's Snow White character, renamed Woke White, of course, who spends her time lecturing dwarfs, rejecting love, canceling woodland creatures, and ranting on a podcast called No Princes, Just Power. I can't. The prince? He was portrayed as scared, confused, and emotionally exhausted. The dwarfs? Filing an HR complaint. It was iconic and brutal. The worst part? It aired Sunday night, and by Monday morning, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, every single platform, was in full flames. Clips from the episode were already going viral. Audio from the sketch is trending on Reels. Meme pages were calling it, the roast we didn't know we needed. And Rachel? Oh, she saw it. She saw all of it.
Whoa. Right, we're talking about ultra-far leftists, people who believe that men and women are a figment of your imagination, that your money is not your own, that your family is not your own, and that your country is not your own. That's what woke means.
By noon, Miss Zegler had already posted a black screen story on Instagram with white text that said, tired of being the punchline for speaking my truth? Like, girl, this isn't your diary. The internet is out here clowning and you're giving high school theater kid on Close Friends. But she wasn't done. 2 hours later, another one. It's always women who speak up that get mocked. And don't get me wrong, we love standing up for women's voices. But babe, this isn't about speaking up. This is about saying something no one asked for, and doubling down when it flopped. Rachel's interviews about rewriting Snow. White have been dragged for months because they weren't inspiring. They were condescending. And Family Guy didn't attack her for being a woman. They attacked her for being the moment, just not in a good way. But instead of laughing it off or staying silent, Rachel chose violence against her own PR strategy. Because the more she posts, the more people are like, girl, this is exactly why they dragged you. And now, even fans are split. Some are defending her, sure, but others, they're like, we can't save her from this. She walked into the fire in full glam with a microphone.
A company like Disney so up against it. Why? Because it doubled down on DEI.
Let's talk about the level of petty we're dealing with here. This wasn't a one-liner. This was a 5-minute cutaway sketch, fully animated, with custom outfits, acting, and a plotline that was like a subtweet. And they had Woke White giving a TED Talk in the castle about traditional femininity. They had forest animals trying to unionize of her emotional coldness. They even threw in a cutaway where she's on a feminist podcast selling crystal water bottles and passive-aggressively dragging the original Snow White as problematic propaganda. I can't. The attention to detail? Disgustingly. And the irony? I didn't even name Rachel. They didn't to. Knew. The energy, the lines, the tone. It was a shot parody of her real interviews. Like, remember when the prince is kind of a stalker? That was literally turned into a scene where Woke White files a restraining order on him. It was that specific. The internet didn't just laugh. They stood up and cheered.
And there was no tension. There was no drama. There was like nothing in that set. All it was an empty movie.
Let's be honest. The internet's been waiting for something like this. Ever since Rachel's press tour for Snow White started going viral for all the wrong reasons, people have been clocking her. The eye rolls, the I didn't even like the original sound bites, the we're not doing that love story anymore energy, and it's all come full circle. Family Guy didn't start the mockery, they canonized it. And while her stans are out here trying to defend her, the vibe is very, you'd have seen this coming. Because your PR tour is all about rejecting a classic beloved generations and then go on media acting like you're the victim and it backfires. The public doesn't forgive, they meme. Now Rachel's become the face of a specific pop culture lesson. Don't what no one asked you to touch. And once Family Guy turns your quote into a punchline, babe, it's over. That sketch is gonna be clipped, dubbed, soundtracked, edited into every TikTok trend the next 6 months.
So Disney is another company that's been in hot water. They've been in a downward spiral.
Let's be real. When something like this drops, the first place to look is the comments. And babe, Rachel's own fans turned on her faster than you'd say no prince needed. First, some were doing the usual routine. She's so brave for speaking up. Leave women alone. This is bullying. But didn't last. By midday, the tone hard. Threads on X were full of people saying, she brought this on herself. Why is she surprised? She said all of publicly. And I defended her when the backlash first hit, but now she's just ungrateful. Ouch. Not even the girlies who stan woke Disney were her like they used to. Some fans were even siding with Family Guy, calling this weirdly accurate, and the thing funnier, her actual interviews. One post with over 100K likes said, the fact that Guy just showed her actual Snow White quotes and thought it was a parody tells you everything. Babe, that's not shade. That's a funeral.
The primary suffering is being sent in by my company to watch a children's movie as a single man, like 2 p.m. on a Thursday. That was the first part that was a little bit weird, but I was basically the only person in the theater.
And you know, if TikTok touches it, it's over. Audio from the parody scene, specifically line, I'm not a damsel, I'm a CEO in a glass coffin, is now a sound. People are using it in skits, transitions, fails, you name it. Some are even as woke white, exaggerated Rachel mannerisms and captions POV. You're ruining a classic to prove a point no one asked for. Babe, the edits are getting savage. Side-by-sides of the Family Guy Snow White next to Rachel on the red carpet. Reactions from her old interviews with the sketch voice dubbed over. There's even one viral TikTok titled, Rachel watching her entire career get turned into a cutaway gag. The likes? Millions. It's gone full meme. And the worst part? Rachel's silence is only making the noise louder. Because the second she posts again, anything, even a selfie, people are going to flood the comments with Snow White who, and is this before or after the HR complaint from the woodland animals?
The most insufferable girl boss narcissist that exists on Earth, who hates Snow White.
And while Rachel's taking the heat online, you know who else is sweating? Disney. Sources, and when I say sources, I mean gossip accounts with suspiciously accurate tea, are claiming that Disney execs were not ready for this level of ridicule. Apparently, they were already trying to cool off the Snow White backlash, quietly re-editing promo and pausing interviews. But this Family Guy sketch, it brought the drama back to life just when they were trying to bury it. The internal vibe allegedly is, oh no, it's trending again, like full-on PR panic mode. Executives are reportedly reconsidering the tone of the final film, which B2 still isn't out yet, and wondering if Rachel's version of the character needs to be softened in post. Translation, they want to make her less memeable. Before it's too late, babe, you know it's bad when the studio behind the flop is doing image damage control before the movie even drops. And Family Guy just lit the match they were praying no one else would touch.
A completely spineless, feckless prince buys his swimsuits at Target. It's helpful to be able to tuck. And Snow White is Snow Brown. Now, I don't have a problem with the fact that she's brown. I'm just saying everything about this has to be changed when it doesn't really need to be changed.
Here's the real tea, babe. Rachel's not being roasted for acting. She's being dragged for her attitude. The parody didn't come for her voice, or her looks, or her performance. It came for her energy. That smug, overly rehearsed, I'm better than this fairy tale tone that she carried into every interview. And now, it's been immortalized in cartoon form. That's not just embarrassing. That's a career scar, because once the internet sees you as a character, a type, a meme, a vibe they can mock, it's very hard to come back from that. People don't see Rachel anymore. They see woke white. They see the eye rolls, the quotes, the Family Guy voice. That's what sticks. And unless she completely flips the narrative, which, let's be real, she hasn't exactly nailed so far, she's going to carry this parody with her everywhere. This wasn't just a drag, it was a digital branding reset, and not in a good way.
I also like how Disney doesn't have any new ideas. So
Right.
what have we done before that's worked? Let's do that again.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, babe. When Family Guy roasted Rachel, they didn't just clown a few quotes, they had a whole persona, a version of her that the internet instantly recognized, laughed at, and started reposting like gospel. That's what makes this moment so dangerous for her career. Because this isn't a scandal, it's a branding problem. Right now, Rachel isn't being seen as the girl from West Side Story or that new Disney actress. No, she's the woke Snow White girl who hates fairy tales. And it's not even about what she actually said anymore. It's about how people feel when they hear her name. And thanks to this parody, that feeling is cringe. And babe, your image becomes a public opinion care about facts. You can give the performance of your life, but if the meme harder than the monologue, the meme wins. Every time.
It just takes a beloved movie and makes it much more boring and much less realistic. The movie is really, really bad.
This isn't just about Rachel. This is part of a way bigger pattern we've seen over and over again. Every few months, the internet picks a girl, someone who got a little too confident, a little too vocal, a little too polished, and they turn her into the main character. Not in a good way, in the let's drag her for sport kind of way. We've seen it with Anne Hathaway, Meghan Markle, Lena Dunham, and now Rachel Zegler is the new face of main character shaming because, let's be honest, if a guy had said half the things Rachel did, the internet would have rolled their eyes and moved on. But because it's a woman, one with strong opinions, a platform, and a little Hollywood shine, suddenly she's ungrateful, annoying, fake woke, too much. The culture loves to cheer a girl on until she slips, and once she does, they don't help her up. They meme the fall, loop it, and sell it as content.
Very few people wanted to see this. Even the little kids who like Disney movies, even they don't seem to be turning up in droves for the movie because the movie is really, really bad.
Let's talk about the Snow White of it all, because at the center of this whole mess is something Disney still doesn't seem to understand. We don't want our fairy tales shamed. We want them upgraded. Rachel's Snow White promo wasn't empowering. It was low-key insulting. She didn't reimagine the story. She rejected it. She didn't evolve the princess. She dragged her. And the audience didn't vibe, because the fans don't want a girl boss princess who trashes true. Love and acts like romance is embarrassing. They want a relatable queen who can slay dragons and wear lip gloss. And now, thanks to Rachel's tone-deaf press tour, every future modern princess is going to walk on eggshells. Because this wasn't just a PR fail, it became a culture war moment, and the parody sealed it.
So I've got some bona fides here on being fair. The movie was absolutely terrible.
Let's also address the double standard, because it's real. When male actors take bold stances or flip the narrative, they get praised as deep and daring. When women do it, they're labeled difficult, dramatic, or divisive. Rachel didn't deserve this level of hate. Let's be clear. But her mistake was thinking that this audience in this culture would clap for her when she came for something so beloved. Instead, they clapped back, loud and with a cartoon that now has more cultural impact than the actual movie. The irony? Rachel wanted to rewrite the fairy tale, and now she's the cautionary tale.
When people say woke, what they really mean is they're describing a worldview that hates you, that hates everything America stands for.
Here's where it gets icy, babe. The Family Guy episode aired, the internet exploded, Rachel posted and deleted, her fans argued, and Hollywood said nothing. No support, no statements, no co-star stepping in, no studio pushing back. When a star is really loved, their team jumps in, their peers show up, their studio controls the narrative, but in this case, it's been crickets. And in Hollywood, silence is never silence. It's strategy. It's distance. It's the entertainment industry quietly saying, this isn't our fight anymore. And that's how you know this moment hit harder than anyone expected. When the PR teams go dark and the studio execs start shifting focus, that's when you realize the parody didn't just mock Rachel, it ended the reboot's last chance at redemption.
Look, I don't really like the term woke. That said, our primary purpose is to entertain. And where we can entertain responsibly, obviously we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world.
Let's be honest, this movie was already on thin ice. Between the delayed release, the confusing plot changes, the constant fan backlash, and Rachel's bizarrely smug interviews, the hype had already turned to dread. But the Family Guy sketch? That was the final shovel of dirt on the reboot's grave. No one's talking about the film anymore. They're talking about the joke. And that's fatal in entertainment. Once your project becomes known for the parody, not the plot, the movie's toast. The Snow White reboot isn't coming out to fanfare. It's coming out to side eyes, TikTok memes, and people quoting the Family Guy sketch in theater lobbies. And if Disney knows anything, it's that you can't sell a fairy tale after it's been turned into a comedy sketch with a podcast joke and a restraining order.
Have proven to be Disney's worst investment ever in the history of Disney investments. I mean, they've gone through various scandals with this girl.
Okay, babe, let's just say it. This might be the moment that defines Rachel Zegler for years. Not West Side Story, not her vocal talent, not even her activism. This, the parody, the meltdown, the silence after the storm. Because once a celebrity becomes too easy to mock, casting directors hesitate, studios get nervous, brands start ghosting. It's not fair, but it's real. Public image is currency, and right now, Rachel's stock just plummeted. It's not about whether she's talented, it's about whether audiences can take her seriously again, and after being turned into a cartoon that's more quotable than her actual press tour, babe, that's a hard reset.
The primary suffering is being sent in by my company to watch a children's movie as a single man, like 2 p.m. on a Thursday. That was the first part that was a little bit weird, but I was basically the only person in the theater.
This is the part nobody talks about. The internet always wants a new villain. Someone to meme, someone to mock, someone to trend for the wrong reasons. And Rachel walked right into the spotlight with the wrong energy at the wrong time. She wasn't graceful, she wasn't funny, she wasn't relatable, she was confident, but not in a likable way. And when that kind of confidence doesn't land, the public doesn't just ignore it, they punish it. This Family Guy moment, it just crystallized what people already felt, but hadn't fully said out loud. Rachel had become the internet's favorite new punchline, and no one's in a rush to stop laughing.
I don't really care about that. What I care about is how she hated the story because it needed to be wokeified, and she hated the fact that there was going to be a Prince Charming of some sort, and they needed to update it.
So where does this all leave us? A Disney princess with no kingdom, a reboot with no hope, and a rising star whose glow got dimmed by a 5-minute sketch and her own refusal to read the room. Rachel Zegler came into Snow White thinking she'd break the mold, rewrite the rules, and leave her mark on Disney history. And girl, she did, just not in the way she planned. Because now, thanks to a cartoon, a tweet storm, and a fandom that flipped, Rachel's name is tied to a roast that will outlive the movie itself. And the biggest irony? She didn't need a prince to ruin the fairy tale. She did that all by herself. Family Guy just animated the obituary.
And Disney decided to hire.
So tell me, babe, was this too far? Or did Rachel get the drag she's been dodging since this mess began? Did Family Guy go too hard? Or did they just say what everyone else was thinking? And can she bounce back? Or is this the moment her Snow White story turned into a cautionary tale? Drop your tea in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell so you're the first to catch the next celebrity crash and burn. Because in Hollywood, one wrong quote, one bad vibe, and one cartoon is all it takes to go from icon to irrelevant.